Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for our radio audience tuning in here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all can be with us. Also, tuning in through our online affiliates around the world, including our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music. Glad you all could be with us as well. We always talk about the importance of learning from the past, the lessons that we can glean there, but also the things that we hope to never be able to forget or to repeat. Our next guest is someone who has dealt with one of the tragedies of, I think, American history when it comes to injustice, but definitely continue to tell his story and also that of his cousin, Emmett Till. We're excited to welcome to our broadcast today someone who is making his first appearance on our show, Mr. Willard Parker, Jr. We're going to talk to him not only about what it's been like for him to talk about his own experience with his cousin Emmett Till, but also the night, of course, that so much happened that we have all heard about now when Emmett Till was murdered. We'll talk to him about that and what he hopes you never forget about his cousin and the work that continues. Mr. Parker, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
Well, I want to thank our station manager, Joseph Thomas Jr., for connecting you and I. You and I literally just were connected yesterday. You were visiting the state of Mississippi, and I think this is one of the things, Mr. Parker, that I really appreciate. And I said to you before we went on here, I appreciate you talking about this because I read in an interview you did with NPR where you said steel is something that haunts you. What has it been like for you to think about not only what happened 67 years ago, but also the impact it continues to have on all of us?
I guess we have different emotions. I am very grateful that some changes have come about, but I still resonate with me the beating that he took, and it's just mind-boggling to think that it could happen in America. I haven't got past that. Mm-hmm. So it's something that stay with you, and most of all, I thank God that we have come much farther. I got a lot of work to do, but I just thank God that we have made some progress.
Yeah. Well, you are not only having conversations like this, but you have a new book as well, A Few Days Full of Trouble. Why did you feel like now, Mr. Parker, was the time to be able to tell your story?
I was reluctant to do the story because the story did not end well for me, and there were so many misquotes and just outright lies. Once a documentary was out, the guy was telling a story, my cousin, and he wasn't there at all. And you feel so helpless, especially in the very beginning, 30 years for things to kind of start turning around, you know. And so someone said, well, someone will believe your story. You know, when I first told it, they said that I alleged. So I found that there's some people do believe my story. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it kind of encouraged me to tell it, and some people want the truth.
Right, and I should say the book is available. I ordered it myself, Mr. Parker, on Amazon. A Few Days Full of Trouble: Revelations on the Journey to Justice for my cousin and best friend Emmett Till. You know, as I mentioned, I mean, it's hard to believe that we're talking about a travesty that took place, as I mentioned there, 67 years ago. You mentioned, of course, the changes that have happened. Talk to us about the young generation today, though, Mr. Parker. Are you encouraged by the interest, but also the actions of young people today to make sure that change continues?
I think I'm encouraged by them. For some reason, it seems like they are more, not knowledgeable, but they are more apt to accept change. Time bring about a change, they say, and I'm experiencing that. And so we talk to young people who wants to change and who are very progressive in making change. So that goes a long way.
The book talks about your being the last surviving witness to the lynching of Emmett Till. I mean, what has that been like for you to think about? Not only what happened that night, Mr. Parker, but also the fact of how many people have passed on since that time.
I never thought, and I'm not the kind of person. I was I came up a very bashful, shy person, so I was never out front with the story. Didn't have to be. My grandfather was there for a long time, and Mamie was there, and my Uncle Simeon. And so I was never aggressive trying to get in the front at all. And it gravitated to, I am the last survivor. I tell my story and hoping that it helps. And I guess I didn't know the impact that it had on people being the last survivor and being an eyewitness. I really didn't realize that until later in life, how much it meant to people. Even now I'm here, and I don't look at it and see it like people see it, but they feel good to see eyewitness account. Yeah, eyewitness account.
In that NPR interview that you did, Mr. Parker, you talked about waking up at 2:30 in the morning and hearing that talking.
Yeah.
And you heard, of course, someone says you got two boys here from Chicago, and you talked about in that interview that you thought you were going to die. Talk to us about that. I mean, I think so many of us cannot even begin to fathom what that was like. What has that been like for you to reflect on what did happen that night, but also what could have happened?
I guess the thing that kind of stays with me, and often think, one thing in the process, we were people of faith, very, very strong in religion and believing God, and from day one you taught, and you're very conscientious of your relationship with God, very conscientious. And it was kind of hard for me to believe that this happened in America. How could it have happened? And how could it have gone so wrong? And you're being taught the Bible, and you say, and we were in the Bible Belt. How can people do that? And it's still mind-boggling. Sometimes I asked, what are the preachers teaching in the church, I read the Bible, and we read the same Bible. How could the atmosphere be as it was in the South at that time? Still mind-boggling.
Yeah. I think that is it. And you also talk about that you did not talk to his mother about that night, what has happened, but that one of the things that you said was that, later she would ask you to carry on his legacy. What does that feel like for you to have? I know it is a responsibility, Mr. Parker, but also that privilege.
Well, I always hate survivor's guilt. That's what it says called. I came back, and he didn't come back, and I'd see her, and she'd have me to come to her school, or we were around, and we never sit down and talked about it, not at all. She had her ideas. It was her only son. She loved him, and we loved him too. So she told what happened, or she thought what happened, and it didn't happen that way, but we never talked about it. And how do you correct a mother, when she got her own ideas about the whistle and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then she asked me to carry on. I felt so helpless and not capable of doing it. So I thought I would do it. What else can you say?
Right.
She came to our center, and we had got block grant money where we had built the center. We had not named it after her son yet. And she saw what we was doing, and she knew what we were capable of doing, but seeing what we were doing. So we said, we carried on. We never knew that it could come to this level, because for the first 30 years, the attitude in America was he got what he deserved. How can you change that, What can you do with that? You dealt a bad hand of cards, and it's a losing hand, But as we have seen, things have changed, and God helped people there who kind of came on the board, and next thing we know, here we are. It's come a long way. The anti-lynching bill named after him, streets named after him, and wow, you never would have thought it.
Right. I mentioned our station manager, Mr. Joseph Thomas Jr. He actually met up with you at the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. Talk to us about your experience there, Mr. Parker. What was it like for you being there, being able to share with the students?
It was great to hear their questions. And in fact, we met with another group this morning. It was a big diversity group. It's first time I met with a diversity group. Mississippi groups are usually just not diversity. There's not a lot of diversity. So they have some good questions, and as an opportunity to share with them. Because one thing I stress when I hear the stir of animosity, ill will, and hate, we just want to talk about history. And I ask them, is it okay to talk about history? If you don't talk about history, what will happen? They say, we repeat it again. And I let them know we're not here for hate. Hate destroys the hater. Emmett Till did a reconciliation speech in 2003, and I found out her, both of us were saying and teaching the wrong thing. She said, like, those people didn't even exist. They don't control my life, I have a job to do. And I told them we all have a purpose in life and a calling. And once you do that, and you're going to hit bumps on the road to try to stop you from doing what you got to do. But if you got a life, you got to get back to the things at hand. Otherwise, you're going to lose your purpose in life. So we say positive things. Well, I know they're going to meet with a lot of things. A few days before Trump, they have a lot of problems. So I try to give them tools to work by, to live by.
And I think that is the amazing thing. There is, of course, here in Mississippi, there is, of course, this event that's taking place on April the 1st, depending on how our audience is listening to our conversation today, Mr. Parker. The family-oriented traveling exhibit, Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley, Let the World See, at the two Mississippi museums, is going to be running through May the 14th. So for our audience that are tuning in on WYAD, but also those that are joining us on iHeartRadio and Amazon Music, you all can be able to see the exhibit through Sunday, May the 14th. Talk to us about what you hope people who visit will be able to take away from this, Mr. Parker.
I think they'll see the truth, and their heart will be touched, and they will be moved through the exhibit. I've traveled with the exhibit to D.C., Indiana, Alabama. Now we're here, and it's a moving exhibit, and it's able to reach sensible people. And this, I was very impressed by the way they put it together to reach children. I was very impressed with them. They did an excellent job, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. Everybody's not coming aboard, but it has helped a lot of people, open-minded people. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Parker, as we are talking about, of course, the horrific event that happened with Emmett Till, but we also are able to, and I feel honored to even have this conversation with you, able to celebrate your life and what you've been able to do. I know it's maybe difficult to think about, but for people who pick up your book, A Few Days Full of Trouble, they're able to not only find out more about you, but also, of course, about your cousin Emmett Till, and of course, the journey to justice that you write about. What do you hope your life is able to do to be able to inspire others?
I hope they could see how we are handling it, and that not only this problem, but we're giving them tools that they could face any problems in America. And usually I talk about marriage. First-time marriage is a 55% in divorce problem there. Second-time marriage, 70% in divorce. And third-time marriage, 90% in divorce. What I'm telling them is that the best thing is how you handle problems. They're going to happen. They're part of life. They come to make you strong, not to destroy you. So it's 90% on how you handle it. If you handle it well, you're going to do well. I tell people I'm the happiest man in the world. I'm the president of the club. I can join, but you can't be the president.
Yeah.
Wheeler Parker Jr. is the president. And I show them how that my life has changed. You can't do it yourself, but I'm a pastor, and we believe that if you ask God, He'll do it for you. And we've seen those radical. I had a radical change. A radical change from the man. His mother had the radical change. So we tried to sell those things and tell them it's capable. You're capable of changing it. You can change things. Believe me.
Yeah. Well, it all begins with that decision. And Mr. Parker, I just want to say again, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it is not easy. I know it can be painful, but I think so many people will be not only inspired, but I think motivated by it, and so it means so much for us to be able to have you here and to be able to know, of course, from your example, too, what is possible for all of us. Again, everyone, Mr. Wheeler Parker, Jr. has been our guest. His book is called A Few Days Full of Trouble, Revelations on the Journey to Justice for My Cousin and Best Friend, Emmett Till. It's available through our friends at Amazon.com. I got the hardcover edition there. You can also get the Kindle edition there as well. And, Mr. Parker, do you have a website or anything you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No. Thank you.
Well, look, thank you again for spending this time with us. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
All right. Thank you much, and have a great day, and wish everybody well.
Thank you, and we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live.